naturally with Spirit of Matter here with a horoscope for December 2023 of Scorpio, Ascendant, Sun, Moon, or Stellium, which means a couple of personal planets in Scorpio. And this is a Sunday Sun hour with the Sun in the 10th house. Oh, midheaven is ruled is 26 degrees. It's right where my ascendant. It's kind of like my chart, ascendant in midheaven projected again with Jupiter in the 3rd house. And indeed, from this Jupiter, okay, Moon is 22nd degree Taurus. Yes, Sun in Sag. So, I named this episode a little bit cheekily, much is to gain from surrender. And if you haven't gotten too pissed to not click on this as a Scorpio, then I'm relying that you are pissed on me and that's why you clicked. And so I'm going to provide. So December, what we're gonna have in December for you? What's in stock? So for December, we are going to have, first of all, this is November, we're going to have the new moon in Sagittarius 2 degrees, the full moon in Cancer 4 degrees. Okay, and we are going to have Mercury retrograde on December 23rd. Okay, so new moon December 13, December 27, full moon. Mercury turning retrograde in Capricorn, which is your 2nd house, on December 23rd. Then we have we have Venus ingress into Scorpio and then to Sagittarius, which I forgot to mention for the previous ascendant. So yes. And we have Jupiter turning direct on December 31. And Neptune turning direct earlier on December 6, with Chiron turning direct on December 27. Okay, those are the dates. Now let's go back to the chart. What does each of it mean for you? So first of all, why did I say much is to gain from surrender? The combination that you have here is you're going to have a Mercury retrograde in your 3rd house. Okay, in your 3rd house. Yes, and you're going to have a Neptune going direct in your 5th house with Jupiter in your 7th house. Okay, the ruler of Neptune, the traditional ruler of Pisces, in your 7th house. And Chiron is going to be in your 6th house. Venus itself is going to ingress to your 1st house, which is where some of the gains are coming from, because it also rules your 12th. Okay, so Capricorn is not your 2nd house, it's your 3rd. And when we put these things together, the ruler of your 7th and 4th is going to be passing through your 1st house and then to your 2nd house. Okay. While having Venus in your 1st house can be lovely, it is also ruling your 12th, which can mean surrender. Another signification of surrender is basically your 5th house, where you're going to have Neptune going direct. And so Neptune in general requires some sort of surrendering. And here you're surrendering. At first I wanted to name it surrender to passion, but then I realized how this can be taken as legitimization to do many things that are not okay. So I said much is to gain from surrender, because here when you surrender in your 5th house, which is timeless teaching for you now for Pisces, then you're basically allowing the flow of fun, of joy, of the depth of the oceans to be, I can't say to be contained, but to be experienced and to be enjoyed. Now, of course, it's one of the most difficult things for anything Scorpio to do. Yes? But therein lies also the orgasmic joy around this. Yeah? And now when Jupiter is in your seventh, it's going to also go direct, then you have much to gain from this surrender. You can gain a partnership. And again, I mean surrender in the most spiritual and erotic sense, not in this succumbing to somebody's financial violence or sexual violence. So this is where I want to get straight. This is also why I didn't name it surrender to passion. So the conjoining of Neptune going direct in your fifth. Yes, Karen, I'll touch on later. Jupiter going direct in your seventh, and Venus, the ruler of the ruler. Okay, so Jupiter is the ruler of Pisces, Venus the ruler of Jupiter. Okay, and also the ruler of your 12th house, where you genuinely surrendering yourself in a way to yourself, even. Okay, it's the bedroom. It's also the hospital and the jail. Yeah. So so this is what we don't know that we don't know, the place that is more hidden, and anything coming, the ruler of the 12th coming to our first house can give a little bit of lethargy, can give a little bit of, oh, I'm not as energetic as I am, even though it is Venus. And so you might enjoy things that have to do more with surrendering yourself. Okay, and this is also a time where you want to be addressing your 12th, because the ruler is going to be spending time in your first house. It's going to affect, it can, if anybody tries to interfere with your energy boundaries in the physical, okay, anybody doing shit they shouldn't be doing, X's and O's, okay? If they've been doing some things they shouldn't been doing, this can affect you physically. So you want to defend your energy there. Whichever way you use to defend your energy, okay? To set a clear boundary there is important, because it's just going to affect you physically now. And we don't want that. Definitely not your life path. If anybody tries to interfere with your life path in this time, this could come from a partner unconsciously, because Venus is also ruling the seventh. So this is the time where we want to take your power back. And there is a dissonance. Okay, I can say as a Me Too veteran that I laugh about this almost every time I speak. It's like, what do I want? Autonomy over my body. What do? I surrender and allow my body to speak, and for the energy to be released, and so on and so forth. So a minuscule of that is needed from you this month. Okay, you need to surrender yourself in order to find yourself back, to find your energy back, and you're gonna find a way around this dissonance that that you can apply in your life this month. Okay, but then when you do it, much is to gain. It can also, with surrender, it usually means your loss is your gain. Okay, if you're more like the kinky person or something like this, you surrender, then you know everybody has an orgasm, and this and you gain power over that which you surrender to. The weird ways of dynamic in energy, and you may have some joys around that. There's much is to gain from surrender. Now, let's talk about two other things before we get to delineations. So we talked about this Venus in your first, because for you it was very meaningful, and Mercury, back to Mercury, is going to be retrograde in your third house, with Saturn again in your fifth. Okay, so if you've been involving siblings in your hobbies, if you've been doing something for fun, or maybe you're growing a garden for fun, or like not doing something with the neighbor for fun, this could be, this could be, okay, this could be, but you know, granted that you're not like sleeping with a neighbor or something, then or that your romantic partner is your not romantic affair, because 50 is more like a romantic affair, 70 is marriage. So granted you're not doing something like that, um, then that can mean you're having either communication or some sort of paperwork. If you're growing a garden for fun, or maybe you want an aquarium in your garden, okay, or a pool in your garden that looks like the ocean, it's very Pisces, then you might have to sign paperwork, and there's some things that you might be missing, and then you can have like a conversation about that, or you could be taking a loan to do that, or you could be investing in that. Now with Saturn in Pisces, you have to be careful both about the health situation and both about the finances, being scammed. So here it can be something that involves your neighbors, involves doing something in the garden or in the home. It can be the bathroom, okay, the bathtub and the bathtub particularly. So if you're changing a bathtub or doing something, you could be doing like long-term reconstruction there. Absolutely. And with this Mercury retrograde, there's like something popping up. Maybe there's a leaking, okay, Pisces leaking, leaking of pipes even that you want to fix. Yeah. So those things can definitely show up, but it's something that you do for fun and then as a creative project. So this is why I'm tending to think it's something to do with the garden or maybe a community garden or something like that, or even in a more holistically growing herbs and stuff. But then there is some bureaucracy or debt to do that, or there's some sort of a leakage and you have to call someone. There's communication around that. Now, if it's about the business and this third house expresses it as a business, or I work with my siblings, or we have a creative project together, then you're going to revise contracts that are going to affect you long term. So it's a very heavy, even if it's the slightest things and has to do with the fifth, it's a very heavy Mercury retrograde that you're dealing with. Now let's go to Chiron, because Chiron is going direct in your sixth house. Okay? And here's something to gain from surrender receives another connotation. Okay? Because Mars is still way too adjacent to the Sun now. But the thing is, with Chiron, there is a wound around the I amness of the house that it represents. So this can be something that affects your physical health. And sixth house is also the service I give to people. So it can be if you're working in service or what service you give to people. Yeah. It can also be your pet, and it can also be your employees. So again, if you have any business, this could be your employees. And with Chiron, it's something that you have been dealing with in the past 6 months. So what did we have in the past 6 months? We had some wars, we had some recession, we had some housing crisis, depending on where you are in the world. Granted that you're not like in Kurdi or in Gaza, then that's way more extreme for you. But if you have a business, what have your employees been dealing with? Now that Chiron is going to be direct, very likely you're going to have to surrender something that you consider the I am, so that they can have their I am. Okay, because this is service. This is where we sacrifice, we give. 6 and 12 where we sacrifice, where we give from ourselves. If this is your pet, maybe something you said, I am athletic. And you want to work on your athletic, you invested in it, your pet needed to go to the vet. Okay? Now you have to invest, whether it's your budget, or whether it's your time, or whether it's your work around your pet. Or alternatively, you could be getting a pet. And here, with Aries, this pet could be, you might be getting a dog to be athletic, so that they will take you out, but then you find out that your dog just sleeps on the couch, It is reluctant to try. Like, this is one of the things that can happen to you here. And it's something that, again, you need to go back. What have I been dealing with in the past 6 months? If you have a business, it's your employees. If you're an employee, this is you. Or the colleagues that are in the business. Okay, people of the same rank as you, that at work they are enemies to you. Okay, this is also a house of open enemies. So in this case, if it's open enemies, maybe you are required actually to assert yourself. But if it's employees, it's very, very likely that under the political atmosphere we have, there's actually something you need to surrender. And because Aries is the I am and the doing you, there's actually a wound around this at this time. Okay? So if it's not you, if it's your employees, you have the authority to surrender something so that they don't have that wound that terrible. But if you are an employee, you could be running into difficulties to feel who I am me at work. I am me when I'm giving, yes, I'm giving service. Yes, maybe you're, with Aries, you might be an athletic coach and you've been having migraines. So it's like, I can't stand the music, I can't stand this, I can't stand that. And perhaps now, if you are giving service, you might run into difficulties, or you might need to assert yourself as to, hey, I do need to heal my migraines. Like, I can't be working in this environment. I need to rethink, how do I plan my way ahead? And that can also mean a wound around the job. It doesn't necessarily mean you're ending a job or beginning a job, but that affects, and it's also your physical health. So again, if you have been dealing with something, your physical health, now is the time to kind of look at, is it that I need to assert myself more in terms of I can't work all this hard, or I need time to do my fitness, or now I have a new way, new approach, and it's innovative, it's Aries. And with Aries is self-reliant, so you're gonna have to tend to this yourself, and Chiron can drain your vitality a little bit. That's the problem. But now you're gonna find a way to innovate with or around that. Now that we talked about those, let's talk about lunation. So you have a new moon in your second house of income, but also of expenses. And then, unfortunately, because of this presence, let's go to the lunations. You'll see what I'm talking about. This is new moon. Yes, you can also check it on my beginning video, here the first in the series, where I just look at December and then do Aries in the end. But now, when we take a look at the lunation, there can be financial loss. Okay, or yes, there can be a financial loss or loss of a client, because Mars here is very wide orb, but around this lunation it will it will begin to apply to square Neptune here. Okay, so unfortunately, Mars can mean that it could be you spend money on yourself, but you might not be satisfied with the results. Okay, or spend money on your business or even on your employees, and there's a sense of loss there. With the square, it's almost always some loss, some ideation, something that you need to correct, to go over, so, and you have to you just deal with it. It's just so. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's just so. It's nothing all that big unless there are other significations. But you need to know that this is something that you're dealing with, and if you're thinking that, oh my God, this purchase is going to be the greatest ever, is highly likely to be so. But you're very likely to be doing this anyway, or some money will be lost anyway, thanks to that. And there can also be a bit of wound around your values. Okay, because your ability to assert your values Mars, according to who you are, because Mars is also the ruler of your ascendant, is going to suffer some loss. Now for the full moon in Cancer. So full moon in Cancer is happening in your 9th house. And this is this is where you get the chance to release some beliefs that have been waiting on you or worldview. If you're the type of person who's been working with consciousness and the power of belief and stuff like that, then you're very likely to have some successes, both coming to fruition because it's a full moon, and releasing beliefs that no longer serve you. And with Cancer, those beliefs can be about nourishment or your ability to nourish yourself, or people, if you're a political person, if you're a mundane level, okay, about people or peoples, or beliefs you've had around, people, nations, as relation to the people, the nourishment we can have, or around the traveling, okay? If you've been having limiting beliefs, whatever you're having Cancer, they're around traveling, and you've been working on, and you might actually travel, or alternatively, you are releasing some obstacle, some baggage is being released. Call it a sweet release when it comes to that lunation. And it definitely is. So this is something, yes, pretty much something to look forward to. This is not a lunation I'm overly concerned about, and it's definitely going to be some nice time. Okay, so you're gonna have some nice time in the holiday, and maybe you go on the vacation on the holiday. So if it's to do, bless you, if it's to do with religion, or to do with you got to sneeze, by the way, which in my culture means confirmation, okay? and my mother sneezed, which basically is represented by the moon. So as we were talking about this, so confirmation, it's gonna be a sweet lunation for you. You might want to travel. It is something to do with kind of like your religious beliefs. So yeah, if something is being heavy on you too much, then you can let it go a bit. The way you've been practicing being spiritual, or even the place of religion in your life, it doesn't mean you go atheistic. It just means that it's like, hey, I don't have to have this weight. Okay, let's say you're Christian and you're kind of like carrying shame or carrying this or carrying that. It's kind of like, hey, Jesus loves me. That's what this religion is about. Okay, you can have some sort of a revelation, kind of like release what's not needed. So yes, that's it. So hope you have been enjoying this. Hope it was useful and worth watching. I'll see you in the next episode.